The sacred is revealed in the ordinary. There is a beauty in this. But how do we discover the mystery of the sacred in our seemingly mundane existence? Welcome to Revealed, a podcast sponsored by Resurrection Catholic Parish in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's join our hosts, Katie McAllister and Tony Pickler, as they explore the lives of people, organizations, and resources that will help us delve into the sacredness of the ordinary.
Welcome to Revealed, where we are in search of the sacred in our ordinary lives. I'm Katie.
And I'm Tony.
And we are coming to you from the confessional at Resurrection, but we're not taking confessions right now, are we, Tony?
We are not.
Because we are interviewing a great guest, and that guest is here to talk about a very important topic. And so, Tony, I'm going to actually turn it over to you because you know this guest a lot better than I do, so introduce away, buddy.
I do. Thanks, Katie. So today we have a really special guest, and his name is Ryan Good. And Ryan is the CEO of Foundations Health and Wholeness on the west side of Green Bay. Ryan, I've known Ryan now for, I think, 8 years or so. I've been on the board of Foundations Health and Wholeness for 7 of those years. And Ryan has led this organization for, I believe, 10 years or so, right?
Yeah.
Or 12 years now. And before that was in the area of foster care and directing foster care for foundations. And so just been an incredible leader of a local nonprofit. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
So what is Foundations Health and Wholeness? Let's just start with the basics. What is it and when did it start?
Yeah, so Foundations Health and Wholeness started back in 1965, and we're a nonprofit organization in our community. The original focus was mental health, and its main focus back then and still today was the integration of spirituality into mental health. And then throughout the years since 1965, we've expanded our programming, and we now have a really robust foster care program where we have 6 branch offices throughout the state, providing treatment foster care services to youth throughout Wisconsin. And then we also have what we call our RAISE program, which is homeless and runaway youth. So we work with these children that have either run away, they're couch surfing. We do a lot of outreach efforts to like parks and libraries, and where we have partnerships with school districts and law enforcement to find these kids and to wrap services around them so that they can be successful either for independent living, or we do mediation services to try and get the kids back into some safe and stable housing. And so that's our newest of programs.
I love that it started in 1965 because you don't usually think of mental health. You think of that as a more recent topic that people talk about. But I guess in 1965, you guys have really you have a good history in Green Bay of providing this services.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it was originally started by George Kress with Green Bay Packaging. And then he teamed up with Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking. He was also the pastor of a church in New York. And so then when George would fly to Carnegie Hall to see shows with his wife, he met Norman Vincent Peale. Norman Vincent Peale had a counseling center attached to his church and did the integration of spirituality into mental health. And George Kress said, we need something like that in Green Bay, and the rest is history.
Well, thank you, George. Absolutely.
I'm curious in terms of the spirituality embedded or integrated into mental health services. I mean, I think it's different than, let's say, Christian counseling, right? So how does spirituality get embedded into what you do at Foundations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So spirituality, it's integrated through all of our therapists are trained in spiritually integrated care. And really, its focus is obviously client-driven in terms of how they see spirituality, what is important and meaningful in their lives. And then the therapists are trained on how to integrate that into their treatment planning, into their clinical processes and modalities. And so clients can decide, yes, I would love my spirituality included in my therapy sessions, or they can say, no, I have no interest, and that's perfectly fine also. But really, spirituality, how we kind of define it, is what gives value, meaning, purpose to individuals and how they identify that in their lives.
So this time of year can be especially hard for people with mental health. I was actually just at a gathering and a lady talked about, January is her hardest time of the year for her mental health. So what kind of challenges do people usually come with in January in these winter months?
Yeah, so what you just described in your conversation with your friend, that is exactly what we see in the clinical setting as well with the clients that are coming to us for mental health counseling. What we typically see this time of year are people who are reporting just feeling a little bit more down, maybe a little bit more their depression symptoms might be a little bit more exacerbated during this time. They report just feeling like the blues. That's kind of what our therapists refer to it as. And I mean, just this week with a couple of clients I saw, both had reported that just people within the house are just nagging at each other and getting on each other's nerves. And so they're really starting to feel just that tension and anxiety and just the walls kind of creeping in on them. And so that's a very common thing that's reported during these winter months.
I would think, part of it is you've got cabin fever type behaviors because of the cold.
Yes.
You've got darkness. It's such a dark time of the year. But also I would imagine like post-holiday blues, like in terms of maybe the holidays didn't go as well as people wanted it to, or maybe there were arguments or something. Does that all play into what you see?
Exactly, Tony. Exactly. I think oftentimes we have so much expectations around what the magic of the holidays should be all about, what the relationship should look like when families get together, and most of the time it doesn't meet the expectations that we had set forth beginning the holiday season. And so that certainly, I think, can be a discouragement to individuals that whose expectations were much different than what reality was. And then also, yes, the sunlight is so much less. Oftentimes you're leaving for work when it's dark, you're getting home when it's dark. And then the cold, you're not going out and doing a lot of the outdoor activities. And so all of those things have a tremendous factor in our mental health.
Is there anything that we can do before, getting to the point of going to foundations and seeking professional help? Is there anything we can do just ourselves before we get to that point?
Yes.
To kind of get off, to fight off those winter blues?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some very common things that our therapists collectively suggest with really all of their clients that they're seeing this time of year. And some of those things, one is a very practical thing with taking vitamin D. So that's something that obviously the sun helps us produce in our bodies. And so that's a very practical way that can help with some of our mood elevation and energy levels and those sort of things. Also, I think it's important to be intentional about social interactions. And one of the things that I think is a little bit more of a struggle in winter than it is in spring and summer and fall is a lot of the things where you're doing social events have to be inside, which means oftentimes they cost money, whether it's bowling, going to the movies, getting coffee, whatever that might be. And so sometimes it's a little more expensive to connect with others during the winter months instead of going hiking or frisbee golf or, any of those things that you can do outdoors when the weather is nice. And so one of the things we talk about is just being intentional about how to invite people, whether it's over to your house to have a movie night at home or a cup of coffee and dessert, something like that, trying to fit that into your schedule at least once a week with some interaction in order to not isolate and to continue to have those social interactions. I think another practical thing is we talk about activities of daily living. So that's often referred to as ADL. And so those are things like just showering, brushing teeth, preparing meals, just those daily things that we do. And oftentimes when we are feeling more depressed or just not having the energy, a little bit more lethargic, those are some of the things that pass away, which then in turn you struggle a little bit more getting out of bed and getting dressed for the day. And that just continues to add to the cycle of that lethargy and and lack of motivation for things. And so We do encourage our clients to just continue to do those activities of daily living, even if they're not feeling like they have the energy to, the motivation to, because after you make your bed, after you take a shower, oftentimes that's enough energy that you put forth to then catapult you into doing some of the other things that you need to do that day.
Sounds like those are really great proactive ways to take care of yourself. I'm also wondering about the other side of the coin in terms of proactivity in being on the look or the lookout for people who might be struggling with mental health issues. So what would be some things that the rest of us who maybe are not struggling with mental health issues, what are some signs of people that we should be looking for just to be aware and maybe then refer them or help them to seek some help?
Yeah. Great question. And actually, one of the campaigns that we've done, especially in the tavern leagues around the area, is what we say is, do you have a friend missing in action? And if so, reach out. Because what we find, again, when we are feeling a little bit more depressed and down, we don't have the energy oftentimes to reach out to others. We don't have the motivation to reach out to others. And so oftentimes it does take that friend, that family member who says, come on, let's go out for a cup of coffee, or, hey, can I come over and bring you a meal? Those kinds of things to check in. And so I think that's a great point, is if you are someone who does have the energy during this time of year, that your energy can be so impactful and even life-changing if you're using that energy to reach out to those who you haven't heard from in a while, you haven't seen for a while. If you're in a card-playing club and someone hasn't shown up for the last few weeks, just giving them a call and saying, hey, how you doing? Checking in with them. And then, Tony, as you mentioned, sometimes during this year, sometimes it does just help for people to talk to someone else to be able to process some of these things. And even some normalcy of saying, hey, your struggle isn't any different than a lot of people's this time of year. And even just that normalcy can help someone just overcome some of these, thoughts and feelings and those kinds of things.
So you referred to the Tavern League and an involvement. What is that about?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting work. So we have a program called Dudes and Tacos, and it's a men's mental health initiative. And what we are doing is trying to connect with men in our community that normally wouldn't walk through a counseling office. So like 2/3 of our clients are typically females, 1/3 are males. And so our thought is, okay, if a clinical setting isn't something that some males aren't going to feel comfortable doing, how can we get mental health awareness and support out there in a different way that will speak to men in a certain way? And so one of the big areas we focused on is, where are men meeting already? And of course, bars are one of those places. And often, people who do need some interaction and support. And so both the Brown County Tavern League as well as the Oconto County Tavern League have opened their doors saying, hey, whatever you want to communicate through us, we are more than happy to support you. And so we've done a posters and coasters campaign where there'll be posters in the bathrooms or coasters at the bar that they pass out, just about how, everyone struggles, reach out, get help, or it's do you have a friend missing in action, reach out, see how they're doing, those kinds of things. And so that's been a really neat tool to get the word out about.
Tacos, the men's gathering, Dudes and Tacos. I know it includes tacos.
Yes,
right? Literally.
Absolutely.
Tacos also stands for something, correct?
So tacos is an acronym for a trailblazing adventure of connection, outreach, and support. Yeah.
Tacos is a lot easier to say.
It sure is. Absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
So if somebody was out there that's feeling like, you know what, I can't do this alone, I need to reach out to foundations, how would they begin? What is the steps? Or on the flip side, as Tony said, how would you encourage somebody to reach out to foundations? Yeah,
so at foundations, we try and make things as easy as possible for someone to receive services. So if you're someone who may not have the financial means or insurance for therapy, we have options to provide services for those individuals. We have, people who are insured. We have options for those individuals. And basically, they just need to call our organization, and they'll be connected with one of our client engagement specialists who is there to help this individual navigate the various therapists we have, connect them with the most appropriate person that they can see. And then they do all of the scheduling, and an intake is set up, and they'll be off and running with services. So again, it's a very easy and positive process if someone would call the organization and ask for counseling services.
I love that, because it sounds like it's not just who is the next available appointment. It's really working, making sure that you have a good person to work with. And I think that's so important.
That's exactly right.
Being connected to foundations, I know that it's a unique organization in terms of the mental health, strike that. Mm-hmm. Being involved in foundations over these years, I know that Foundations is a unique organization in terms of how you provide mental health, and that many of the people can't afford the services that you are providing. And in that way, it's positioned differently than some for-profit mental health agencies. I'm curious, that must take a lot of support. And so how do people support Foundations and the work you do for people who can't afford mental health counseling?
Yes, absolutely. That's a big need of the organizations, because we do serve about 48% of those we see are or underinsured individuals in our community. And so a lot of the costs we supplement through fundraising efforts. And so on our website at wearefoundations.org, there's a very easy way, that the button to click that says donate now. And for every $160 that is donated, that equals one therapy session for someone who cannot afford services. And so, so we raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in order to meet the needs of those in our community and our neighbors that cannot afford these services.
So important. So Ryan, Revealed is all about finding the sacred in the ordinary life. And so the question is, where do you see the sacred in your work at Foundations? Where is God present at Foundations?
Yeah, love that question. So one situation that happened just last week was our clinical director came into my office, and she was just ecstatic, and she said, I made a difference today. And I said, what happened? And she's like, not a whole lot. I just listened to this new individual that was a little bit scared of coming to therapy, and she had tried some other therapists and it just wasn't a good fit. Ended up in this clinical director's office, and this clinical director just listened to this individual, normalized this individual's thoughts and feelings, and the individual broke down and said, this is the first time I've been able to feel okay being me. And so again, our clinical director was like, man, this was just such a powerful session, and I basically listened and let this person know they are okay being who they are. So that was, just a recent example of that. And then, of course, with foster care, we see God present all the time, just with the connections between these kids and these unbelievable families that are willing to foster. And oftentimes those kids who are fostered lead to adoptions and forever homes, and just seeing the beauty of those new relationships and safe and stable and loving environments for these kids to, find home. These foster parents are a great reflection of God to his people. And that's what foster care basically is. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, Foundations has been such a gift to this community, and the work that y'all do over there in terms of runaway youth, in terms of foster care and kids who need foster care, and then all of the people in our community who need mental health help and assistance. And you have led that organization such a capable and wonderful way. And so thanks for all that you do. Thanks for the gift of Foundations, not only in the Green Bay area, but I know we didn't touch on it much, but around the state, yes, and particularly in the area of foster care, how you have touched the lives of people literally across the state of Wisconsin. So you've been a gift. Foundations have been a gift. I'll do a little free plug for you. If anybody wants to meet Ryan, I'm sure you could go over to Foundations Health and Wholeness on Mason Street, West Mason. But you could also roll up to Oconto and visit the bowling alley that Ryan and his wife Michelle own. Have a cocktail, bowl a lane or two, support them in that way.
Absolutely. Thanks.
And so we thank you for listening and joining us in this Revealed podcast. And so until next time,
keep looking for the sacred in the ordinary.